Hello, this is Brian Dwyer with Reveille Software. Thank you for joining us today at the Solex Expo event. For the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to try to share some insights on digital transformation, how you look at prioritizing, delivering, and validating DTX initiatives. So if we look at the current report card for DTX initiatives, this is a recent one from Harvard Business Review. It's unfortunately not very good. Majority of senior executives don't think they're getting the results they should be getting from a DTX initiative. So let's dive in to see some characteristics on why we think that could be happening. Normally a DTX initiative traditionally is thought about a way to gain competitive advantage, that is, cause market disruption. It's a game changer. It's focused on answering why, not focusing on the how, but on the why and the why not. With today's current environment, that approach is being expanded. We're seeing more folks using DTX as a way to deliver better resilience, to avoid business disruptions, to support remote work from home efforts, and address insider threats, which are have a higher possibility given the work from home, different networks, non-company devices, etc. That magnifies the possibility of insider threats. Reveille Software's relevance to this topic, we believe we've observed DTX initiatives, we've participated, we've led them, served different roles. To be very clear though, we don't provide DTX consulting, but we do think we have some objective views of how DTX projects, the good ones, are done, especially those that require a good bit of intelligent information management, or EIM, technologies, which is very common, obviously, because DTX usually incorporates something about bringing digital assets into play versus dealing with analog type processes. And we've observed a number of our customers that have used these technologies over the years, and we have some thoughts on what are characteristics of a more successful DTX initiative, and what are characteristics of those that are going to have challenges. A little bit more about Reveille. We've been in the marketplace for over 15 years. We provide service level management, user analytics, and security around content access for platforms that are used in DTX initiatives. We support multiple platforms. Today we're focused obviously on OpenText and their EIM solutions. We have strong experience in a number of enterprise across multinational enterprises across the world, as you can see by some of the logos on the right. And we're rapid to deploy. We'll get more into that a little later with cloud-ready architecture. Be it the solutions or the applications that are built to support DTX initiatives are running on in a public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid, including on-premises. Reveille can play a role. If you look at our report card, we're proud with the number of integrations we've done, the number of users that Reveille is observing, and our seasoned delivery team. We have a wealth of practical operational experience balanced with current technology understanding to provide high quality software to the marketplace. So if you look at how do you prioritize DTX projects, the first signal, the top two signals, we'll get to the second one in a minute, but the top signal is who is the sponsor. The higher the organization, the more C-level or senior person it is, the better chance the project will have higher success. With everything that comes with that position is also someone that has typically more of a business orientation. It can speak across the different silos within the organization. and connect them. The other component that can be very helpful is those that make up the team are the team members for a DTX initiative. Are they from the grassroots that have been asking for such a change? Have they experienced it, dealt with it, and believe that there's opportunities and they want to be part of it? So you've got a bottoms up and you've got a tops down. That is a recipe for good success. If you have a lower level executive that does not have visibility or span of control across the organization, and you have very little grassroots understanding about why this initiative would improve the company's potential, that's going to be more of a challenge. You can also look at what are the industry peers doing, either through normal SWOT type analysis or working with specific industry consultants. That can definitely signal and provide some learning about where initiatives have succeeded, where they're moving, and some of the initiatives may be public and gain some understanding of what things to avoid. A piece that is diminishing in importance, we believe, is the risk component when you look at a DTX project, especially those that are internal focused. Less and less time and money is being spent on just an internal. There needs to be an external element that impacts the top line for an ROI that's quicker and broader versus just something that is primarily led by reduced risk initiative that doesn't really expand and get back to the heart of the DTX initiative, where it's trying to be a game changer in the marketplace. Culture is number two. This is the roadblock that for those that have been around process change projects that can definitely derail it or stop it and decelerate any progress. If there's been history in the company where with a business process management project or a Six Sigma project, these large horizontal projects which require cultural change and buy-in, there's experience and folks understand what that means and the amount of heavy lifting that's required. If the executive has been associated with it, the sponsor of the DTX initiative, and has lived it and breathed it, that can be very helpful because they know what the level of effort is going to require to lead this kind of change, and it's typically someone that has survived it and is respected within the organization and can do it again. The less successful DTX initiatives are being led by IT. It's not negative against IT. It's just if it's an IT executive leading the initiative, it's invariably ends up being more of a technology scope and less of a business scope because the span of control, reporting, and oversight doesn't get into the business area. So, culture, when it's led by someone that's been there and done it, that has a change agent as part of their experience, that can have a dramatic positive impact on the success of a DTX initiative. Communication for any project, as we know, is very important, but DTX is even more. It needs to be a dedicated, focused communication team, especially now that there's very minimal around the water cooler conversations. Everything's virtual for the most part. So being creative and how to involve folks that are going to be critical to the implementation of the DTX application, the new applications that support it, and how they can participate in communicating their feedback. It needs a focused team that is very sensitive to what types, sensitive to the pace and the amount of information, the type of information that should be communicated based on where the DTX project plan is. Now, the elephant in the room is the human impact, of course. The generic saying that we're going to repurpose resources in growing areas typically doesn't cut it anymore. People want to know what the immediate impact is. What does it mean to them? from when a DTX initiative is launched, and that needs to be ready to be discussed. The more transparent, the quicker you can be, the better participation and buy-in you will get, and feedback from those that the DTX initiative could impact, and those that don't see a future role. The earlier they understand that, usually the better outcome for both parties versus having a delayed type impact on resource sizing. If the organization is primarily matrix without direct ownership of this size project or this type of project, as an example, if a mid-level manager or a project lead has 10 other projects and the DTX initiative is just another 1 or 2 or 3 meetings a week, because of the matrix approach, that can make the project itself very difficult to move forward, because from a day-to-day it has the same emphasis as any other project. So dedicated teams, minimizing the matrix reporting structure has a very healthy effect on a DTX initiative. Technology, to no surprise in today's world, the questions asked, why can't it be in the cloud? So it's cloud first is what folks typically are looking for. As part of that, the skills inventory needs to be done within the IT area to see where they fit and where they can provide value. If it is a new technology stack that's going to be cloud native, as an example. But as part of that analysis, there usually is trade-offs between tactical solutions that could be out-of-the-box SaaS-based, which with less customization options versus a more strategic API-based solution, which could be more flexible long-term, scale better, etc. But we normally see that there's a move from tactical to strategic during the project, versus the ones that have more challenges just stay on tactical. They don't have the planning horizon to architect successfully that if this DTX initiatives is very successful beyond quote a beta stage, which we'll talk about in a minute, what's the right architecture to have in place? So tactical can help prove it. Strategic is where you want to end up. If you don't do that, then you could have multiple tactical solutions, and that impacts the next bullet item, which is the budget. Everyone's aware, hopefully hasn't participated in too many projects where people have to go back and say, well, we need 2 or 3 times more investment in order to deliver this result. It wasn't scoped appropriately. It's broader than we thought. It's taking more time because of the less, we don't have enough resource available, et cetera, et cetera. And technology and people are the biggest impacts, usually to no surprise, to a DTX budget. So having to do multiple tactical solutions versus a tactical/strategic solution can have a very negative impact to the budget. We've seen that. It's fine to go back and ask for more money, but if you've got to be able to prove the ROI to show that this is why we're going to do it. We typically don't see the emphasis on the ROI after the initial budget approval. It should be an ongoing piece that's always looked at. So if things are derailing, the last thing a DTX executive wants to hear is a surprise around the budget in a major way, or else you're going to end up in that 75% budget that where it's not viewed as a successful project. So, Intelligent Information Management, IIM, also known as ECM or EIM in the open text world. These are the common categories that are involved. But if you're going to be dealing with digital content, the ones I want to call out here, they're becoming more and more important. Besides the classic pillars, if you will, extraction, more and more focus on automating the extraction of data using ML or AI technologies, to line of business systems, and then collaboration. Once the content is digital, make it very easy for findability and also access from any device to get to that content in a secure manner. And then app integration continues to be the secret sauce. That is, where do I balance the integration using swivel chair type integration with robotic process automation, RPA, or do I do a direct API type integration for more longer term flexibility and typically better scaling? How to do that in a cloud, on-premises world where you get into hybrid type solutions is very important too. The project team itself, the people that compose the team should be doers. They're the folks that people go to and ask, why are we doing it this way? And have we tried this in the past? It's not a traditional line manager. It's someone that is fairly passionate. It's a high performer within that team. Could be a team lead that has the respect, can communicate, and is very comfortable on the business side, result side of how a process works. Doesn't have to be an architect on the technology side. If you get the combination, that's golden, and those are definitely the kind of individuals you want on the project team. We see a number of folks as part of the makeup of the team using outside consultants, which is fine, especially for specific subject matter expertise areas, process areas, or certain technologies. But when you start using outsiders, if you will, for project leads, communication team, or lead architects, that can send the wrong signal in a number of different ways. Number one, you're telling your existing team, your existing folks that you don't necessarily have the confidence that they can do that role. Or number two, you're removing a growth opportunity. That's a natural. Once you do one DTX initiative, that team, there's different ways those people can be repurposed to even accelerate future initiatives and broaden the impact. If you do that with outsiders, that's a lost opportunity from what we've seen. And the final big piece is the folks on the project team need to be looking at it from a design outside in. That is, from the customer perspective. You're going to have trade-offs where the decision may be, do we go something we're comfortable with that allows us to deal with internally versus looking at something maybe it's a little more complex, more difficult, but would have more of a customer impact. So designing from the outside in needs to be a prime principle when you have those decisions of taking an internal view or the external view. Project speed. There are a number of things that can be done to make DTX initiatives more manageable. From what we observed, the best ones are they break them into chunks. That it can be also makes it easier to communicate to people where things are in the project, where it stands. And some pieces can be reused. It doesn't mean that if I'm doing a DTX initiative, everything's got to be a clean slate, so to speak. I can take existing pieces of a process and maybe migrate it to some newer technology or change the business logic or change some of the logistics if it's involved with a manufacturing process on the supply side or on the delivery side versus having to, again, start from scratch. The time for pilot, we're seeing less and less of those. A number of people now are doing DTX initiatives, what we see, they call them betas. And the beta is more accepted that, yeah, this is ready for people to use, even in the external world, our customers, but they know that improvements are ongoing. Versus a traditional beta is very more defined and self-contained. The beta also allows approaches to get feedback earlier. If you're using agile or DevOps approaches, etc., from the technology perspective, the beta fits right into that very nicely. We're also seeing people use crowdsource more when it comes to some of the pillars within the intelligent information management. such as ML testing, integration between different applications, or validation of results. Crowdsource options can provide quick feedback from a lot of different geos, from different cultures. So if your DTX initiative is focused worldwide, that's a big opportunity to take advantage of some scale there to get feedback in a broad manner. For example, if you've got an app that's going to have to be available in 5 different languages at launch, crowdsourcing is a great way to do that outside of the folks within your organization versus having to build internal QA or delivery teams to handle that localization effort. We're also seeing, because of the virtualized world, the most effective project managers are structuring the project and breaking it up into chunks that can be done in different geos, so you don't have the time delay. So if folks in country A are working on a specific piece that can be shared with country B and C, when those are not working in country A, that can be passed on and continue the process. If you have the skills balanced appropriately, that is a workable solution versus making it a serialized effort where you have stops and starts. Now, one of the least thought of areas, but actually one of the more important when it comes to DTX initiatives, is how are you going to measure success? How are you going to know you're going down the right path? So, a couple of foreshadowing things are: one, user adoption, that is how many people are using the application that's related to DTX, and the incidents, how many service level or training or difficulty issues are being raised, and how frequently are they being raised. Because if either of those two are increasing, obviously that means the application's not being used as much, and it also can indicate you're not gathering the data that was expected from the analytics side. So the what if questions can be looked at, because one of the outgrowths of a typical DTX initiative is you're going to learn new things. You're going to understand not only how this initiative is different, but from answering the why, but you're going to you'll be able to answer some of the what if questions because you've got better data, since things are more digital and less analog. But if the system's not being used in a manner, in a breadth that you expect, the analytics will be less. And then that directly impacts the business KPI. So the senior executive has objectives, typically where it's not the DTX initiative itself will spawn other new ideas and thoughts that will turn into revenue producing opportunities. And if the top two are not right, that impacts the analytics, you won't get the leverage or the multiplier effect on the KPIs, which then can reduce the success review of the DTX project. So Reveille has been focused on a number of these technologies that are involved with DTX initiatives, as we've mentioned, and these are the primary industries that we see companies using these. This probably should be no surprise to anyone, where you've got traditionally analog content that needs to be put into a digital manner, where there's process opportunities and scale, all that factored together with high regulation are great candidates for supporting DTX initiatives when you're trying to make a game changer to the process, be it delivering something faster, delivering a new product, impacting the breadth of the offering that's in the marketplace, any of those type scenarios. Reveille specifically helps in 3 areas. And the first one is, most people we work with that are dealing with DTX, they don't just have one intelligent information management or EIM solution in place. They got multiples. Different departments have made different decisions. There's been M&A activity. It's very unusual to see a pure play, if you will. So Reveille can give you visibility around performance and service levels across all those different types of platforms. The other piece is you want to actively manage the process. We've talked about the categories or the pillars of intelligent information management, from the on-ramp of capture to the repository to the archive to the integration with APIs or RPA. Reveille can look at each of those different pieces and parts, be it on premises or in the cloud, and provide active management visibility of what's going on. And then the last piece is the information that Reveille gathers. It needs to be communicated in a manner that people already understand within applications they use. So for example, if there's events that are important, Reveille can pass those on directly into Splunk for event correlation. Or if there's incidents that need to be tracked and managed as part of a normal change problem management process, Reveille directly integrates into ServiceNow. If there's notifications that need to be done in a different manner, for example, Reveille can also understand gaps in security from content access that is unusual behavior. Then Reveille can directly integrate with endpoint security products such as OpenText EnCase that connects both the device management with the management of the EIM/IIM application, which is unique in the industry. So together, how this impacts DTX projects you see on the right. Number one, lower cost. Helps improve that adoption piece that I talked about earlier for validation and also service levels, and reduces the overall risk in terms of how the project is managed, how the applications are managed for DTX initiatives once they're finally in production. Reveille is cloud ready, so we typically see people on the bottom right, historically, where they're running EIM type applications. More and more folks now are using, we support running in AWS, Azure, or GCP. So they've created their own private clouds, or some are using public clouds. And then together you can get a hybrid cloud. So we've got a lot of focus within the OpenText suite, which you'll see in a second. And we're seeing those OpenText product families running on all of these, and then we're also hopefully, soon we'll be seeing opportunities with OpenText OT2, where Reveille will have a presence also. The high-level architecture of how Reveille works, if you look in the top right, those are the common platforms that you would see considered for an OpenText EIM solution, and Reveille covers all of them. It's not just one of them. And the platform itself provides a number of different management capabilities, which you see in the bottom right. One of the ones I want to call out is all the information in Reveille that it gathers is available through a REST API. And what that means is it's easy to pull the information out of Reveille and use it. The customer can use it in their own dashboarding around performance management or service level management. So they can continually create and get visibility into how the content management applications are performing that are part of the DTX initiative, but feed the information that's gathered from Reveille into the overall DTX process visibility, whatever that system's built on. We've seen people use BI type tools. We've seen them use data warehouse type tools, or for example, things like Magellan reporting could be a target for Reveille information also. The other component is Reveille user analytics, looking at how users are accessing content, answering questions like what type of content is being searched for, how long is it taking the content to be retrieved, what device or location is content being retrieved from, and then from that we can also look at potential unusual or suspicious behavior, such as considerations for the amount of content that's viewed and where the content's viewed from, and then tie that back to what's being done from the Reveille platform. It gives a holistic view of how to allow someone to actively manage the EIM or Intelligent Information Management environment that's supporting that DTX initiative. Most importantly, the results, if we look at the top left and move to the right, the first piece is we're talking about active management. This isn't looking at reports. This isn't looking at another email. This is Reveille will be providing the oversight to make people aware when they need to pay attention that there's issues, either around performance, service levels, or security, to reduce the time it takes to resolve an issue. And Reveille has remediation capabilities built in, which can be as simple as, for example, running a PowerShell to take an action, or it can be more complex, such as reconnecting the capture export with a repository, or could be adding, starting additional services to increase the amount of indexing capacity that's available. All kinds of different actions are available out of the box with Reveille. Another one that's becoming more interest is related to the security side, where if Reveille detects suspicious activity, based on that, either conditionally or automatically can disable that user, and then also cause an action to take place at the device, where that device can be scanned at that point in time to see if there's any malware on it, or disable certain network access or isolate that device. So a number of different active management reactionary capabilities are available out of the box with Reveille. So the data Reveille gathers, of course, is available in dashboards and reports, but it can be repurposed in a number of different ways. Besides just performance or security, it can help answer that adoption question, the capacity question, that is, what capacity is required to deliver a certain level of service. And then most important, on the far right, back to the comment about it allows you to do more with the same. That is, I don't have to have people manually doing checklists. I don't have to have users reporting issues that we're not aware of. And I have closed a gap around understanding who is accessing my content. All that is part of an active management discipline that Reveille can deliver to yield a much better DTX result. A few case studies. One is Turner Industries. Turner Industries is a large utility that provides service in the southeast, and they have a number of platforms that they've consolidated as part of a DTX initiative to do more straight-through processing that impacts both end customers and also internal processing. You can see the results that Reveille helped provide visibility on how those processes were working, the availability and service levels of the ECM components, and then close some of the gaps they needed for audit and compliance around user analytics. Another case study is a large multinational financial services corporation. They have multiple content management platforms. You can see those listed both on premises and in the cloud. And for each one of those, they had different management solutions, and it was becoming unwieldy to get cross-platform visibility, and they were replicating functionality and cost to manage these environments. So Reveille gives them, quote, a single pane of glass to look at things. It also, they gain the active management, and they also have a number of custom applications they've built on top of these EIM or platforms through the public interfaces such as REST interfaces or web services interfaces. Reveille gives them visibility into those capabilities also. So I want to thank you for listening to my discussion today on DTX. Hopefully it's given you a few nuggets about DTX and also how Reveille can contribute to make a DTX initiative on the positive side versus the negative side that we hear about in the marketplace. We hope you enjoy the remaining sessions with the Solex, and feel free to contact me if you have follow-up questions or visit our website. Thank you again.